Well, hello, LifeWise Universe. Welcome back to the Vision Cast. You may notice different camera angle. This is a special Vision Cast. This is actually the finale to this season of the Vision Cast. And so we have some people in the studio to finish it out with us for our big picture section. I am joined by our VP, our Vice President of Creative, Mr. Nathan Lundquist. Nate, what's up, man?
Yeah, I'm excited to be here for the finale.
I know. Well, you've been behind the scenes for much of this. Many of the Vision Casts, you were literally in the room behind the equipment. And I believe the Vision Cast was your brainchild, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. I remember getting a voice message from you saying, I have an idea. Let's do a little podcast type thing called the Vision Cast. So here we are. We've had 20 some episodes or something. Mm-hmm. And this is the finale for this season. And I thought we'd do something special. I've been thinking about you a lot with this big picture. We've been talking about principles of core values, of just the way we are approaching this project of LifeWise. And one of the ways people can quite literally see that we're approaching it is that we put quite an emphasis on beauty. Mm-hmm. And you are kind of the mind behind much of that as our Vice President of Creative. And you have spoken at a couple of our summits on the importance of beauty. And I remember the first summit where you spoke and I didn't know what you were going to say. And that's on the surface level. I just genuinely didn't know. But on a deeper level, it's like, what is he going to say about beauty? And it was honestly very moving to hear you express kind of the heart behind why we have that emphasis. And I want to get a little flavor of that to the broader audience of the Vision Cast. So start off just by explaining, why is it that beauty is so important to you? Why is it so important to LifeWise? Why is it so important to us as humans? Go for it.
I mean, at the highest levels of why beauty matters, it's because the world was made according to a certain pattern. God created the world and he baked in a pattern to the world. And when we live according to that pattern, we experience this thing called beauty. And because when I was trying to define, as I was prepping for that talk, I'm like thinking, okay, I got to like figure out my thoughts on this. I know it matters to me, but like, how do I explain that to other people? And so I started thinking, what is beauty? It's a very strange question to kind of explore. And, I started thinking, things that I would call beautiful are things like things you could see or things you can hear. Eventually all the senses come into play. Right. You could describe things as beautiful, but then it gets weird when it gets into like, you could describe an idea as beautiful. Absolutely. Or a concept or something like that. So that's when I started to realize this is a lot bigger than just a sensory experience. And that's when I kind of landed on this working definition that beauty is the thing that emanates from the rightness of things. And so if God made the world according to this pattern, things that are in line with that pattern, things that are right, when we experience that something that just inherently is according to that pattern, those are the kinds of things that we refer to as beautiful. Mm-hmm. And so then it started trickling down into, we need beauty because we're made in the image of a beautiful God. He's the source of it. And in order to even like live according to that pattern and be sustained, according to this, as James refers to it, this law of liberty, for instance, like those things, like there's a beauty that we need to sustain us. And it's like, it's the same, like a small example of it would be if you're working in an environment that's really dingy and it's hard to focus, it's hard to get work done, versus if you're in this like office, it's got some plants, it's got some sunlight. Like there's something about those things that just speaks to us as humans and allows us to function differently. That's just a small example.
Sure.
But then I started thinking about, this, like when it comes to LifeWise in particular, or a brand of something that you're trying to communicate to other people, beauty is a huge factor in how people make decisions, how people value something, what beauty is speaks to the legitimacy of things. One of
Yeah.
the quotes that I love so much from Victor Hugo, who wrote Les Miserables, is,
Moby Dick as well.
oh, really? I didn't know that.
I think. If that's not right, please cut
Fact
this
check.
out. Yeah.
That'd be incredibly impressive if he wrote both, which I wouldn't put it past him. Anyway, the what was my thought? Oh yeah, Victor Hugo's quote is that beauty is as useful as the useful, perhaps more so. And what he's saying is like we think of a lot of things as useful. A chair is useful to sit in. A pair of scissors are useful to cut a piece of paper. But beauty is as useful things, possibly even more so. And when you start to think about, why do you plant flowers in your yard? Why do you go through all the effort? Why do you decorate your house the way you decorate it? Why do you do any of these things? It's because it matters. We need it. At the most fundamental levels,
Well, that was really powerful to me. I remember when you said we need it. And I think that I'm remembering back like almost a year and a half now, but you said you can't even buy a pair of glasses or something like that without beauty, because everything we do, we're considering beauty. And that's because we're made in the image and likeness of God, and we do need it. And it could be very easy to just write it off and just to say it's not important. But that's just out of laziness. That's just because it's not easy. Like achieving beauty isn't easy.
Sure.
And so to say, oh, well, it's not important. What's important is being useful. It's like, well, that doesn't, well, for one, beauty is useful, but even if it weren't, it's part of who we are. It is a way we actually honor and glorify God, because God is beautiful.
Right.
And I do love the definition, even though, can that really be the definition? What emanates from the rightness? But it does seem correct that you can look at something and say, that's right. That's how it should be, and therefore it is beautiful.
Yeah, the more I've thought about it, I kind of feel like beauty is essentially like a celebration. A celebration of the rightness of things. Whether it's something you smell and you're just like, yes. Or it could be something small or something huge, but that's kind of what it feels like to me.
It's interesting to consider that because beauty transcends the way things look or sound, or like it's on all the different levels, that different people are inclined to different aspects of beauty. I know that when I talk to our IT team, sometimes they speak about IT and systems and things in such a way that I'm not inclined that way, but they have this feeling of like it has to be right, it has to be good, and I think you could say that it has to be beautiful from that perspective.
Yeah.
And but we often think of it just in terms of primarily visually.
Sure.
And you have a word you use that I think applies to primarily the visual aspect of beauty. But tell me if that's right. But you use the word beholder. Tell me what you mean by that word and how we use it now in LifeWise.
Yeah. So in the LifeWise context, this all came about because what is happening within these classrooms in LifeWise is beautiful. But
what's happening is beautiful.
What's
right?
happening
Yes.
is beautiful.
Yeah.
And my goal in my position is to help communities to make it easy for people to see that beauty. But not everybody has the opportunity to be in those classrooms to see it for themselves. So
Almost nobody.
Yeah, exactly. So most people are seeing the kind of vehicles that we drive, or the apparel, or what's posted online, or a myriad of other proxies for what's going on inside that classroom. And so I'm trying to help communities to translate it in an effective way for the outside world, so they can, because people are wanting to enroll their kids, or, and they're evaluating whether it's legit.
So the excellence and beauty of the vehicle
Right.
should be representative of the quality and the beauty of what's happening inside the classroom. Absolutely.
Right. And the problem is not everybody is as sensitive to beauty in those types of formats
They might be more sensitive to beauty in terms of the teaching
Yes.
or beauty, or like I said, with IT or whatever.
Right, exactly. But the visual component, right, is such a like prominent one in this case.
Of
And
course.
so enter the beholder. The beholder is this concept of a human that is very sensitive, particularly in this case, to the visual component of beauty. And they're distracted by the beauty of the world. And one of the ways I tell people to look for your beholders. So the concept was like, find these beholders, find these people in your circle to help you translate the beauty of what's happening in your classroom to the outside world, to help you, because they're the ones who can see it.
Right.
And so a lot of the time when you're looking for beholders, you're looking for somebody who might show up late to things, or they might dress like they're not sure where their home is, or they're a little uncouth sometimes because they are so distracted by the beauty of the world. They're more sensitive in those ways that the other things kind of fall into the background of their life.
Right.
But these people are really good at making beautiful things. And so because I'm only one guy. When it first started, and I was helping communities to translate what they're doing.
Yeah, and we had like 10 communities we were working with.
Yeah, it was like, okay, I can help as much as I can, and then all of a sudden it was like, yeah, this is gonna be impossible as we scale. So, and I don't. It's silly for me to be the only person doing that. Like, there's so many gifted. A lot of people would use the word artist, and that you could translate in a lot of situations. I think those can be synonymous, but. Essentially, yeah, there are so many people within the kingdom of God who have these amazing gifts to be able to.
But as you said, not everybody is inclined in that way.
Yeah.
Not at all. And so I thought I wanted you to share, and I think you maybe you pulled it up.
Yeah, I have.
There's an oath that
Yes.
you made people take.
Yeah, so the story, this all birthed out of a moment with our IT team, actually, where somebody was suggesting that one of our IT people was suggesting that something they were making on a webpage looked really good. And I was, I didn't see it that way.
Do we want to name this person? No, we don't have to.
Well,
Is this the person you award creative points to from time to time?
for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
But I made them take this oath in the moment. I just kind of thought of it in the moment, and it kind of became this thing. And this is the beholder's oath. So this is an oath for people who are not beholders.
Okay. The beholder's oath is for those who aren't beholders.
Yes, it's the only oath for people who it doesn't belong to, so to speak, if that makes any sense. Maybe not.
No, but
whatever.
that's okay.
But it's designed to help you remember to not do the thing that you're about to do and to find the right person to do it. And this is the oath. It says, I will always ask my beholder about creative things. If I am not a beholder, I will not trust my own artistic intuitions. God has given me a different job. It's a good one, but it's not artistic. God and my beholder love me just the way I am. And what's interesting, too, is I find a lot of the people who typically start a program do so because they're driven, they're logistically minded, they're all those things. And a lot of times, those types of people, they don't share the same brain as a beholder.
Right.
And so, in particular, I think it's helpful for those types.
Yeah, and the truth is there's an even deeper principle to a degree here that... And so I'm going to pull back out of the beauty thing and just excellence. So I believe it was Matt, who was also behind the camera, said, boy, on these vision casts, you talk about excellence a lot. It's about every third one we talk about excellence because it is so important to us. And one key aspect of achieving excellence is recognizing your own strengths, your own inclinations, and recognizing your own limitations and surrounding yourself with a solid team of people who can fill those gaps. So I had kind of a mentor type person in my life who was a CEO of several different companies. And he was one of these guys that when a company would lose a CEO for whatever reason, he'd be brought in to steady the ship and for a time because he was just so good at taking charge in those situations. And he told me, I sat with him over lunch and he said, listen, I'm not one of the smarter people you'll meet. I just know where my gaps are. And so when I come in, I kind of think of it as a circle, and I just try to think, okay, I'm not good at this, so I need to find somebody good over there, and I'm not good at
Hmm.
this, and so I need to find, and it's somebody with that kind of humility to say, let me just find a great team.
Yeah.
And every LifeWise program is like that. It's like that here at the support center. And this is one fantastic example of that, right? Like
Hmm.
recognizing I'm not a beholder and that's okay. And so I
Hmm.
need to find a beholder. And anyway, this is incredibly helpful. I'm grateful for you. Nate,
Likewise.
you, one of my oldest friends, not because you're old, but because we've been friends for a long time.
Yeah.
And yeah, thanks for sharing this with the LifeWise universe.
My pleasure.
All right, so Nate Lundquist, a LifeWise hero of sorts around here. Grateful for him. And now we get to hear some LifeWise stories also in the studio. No, we're not going to the phones. We are here live with another local hero of sorts, and it is Jennifer Adams, who is our program director for none other than Hilliard, Ohio, right here,
That's right.
where the LifeWise headquarters is, kind of ground zero or whatever. And so we did how many years? I think we did 3 launch years. Is that right? 2019 and 2020. Yeah, 2021
Mhm.
with so being kind of headquartered here in Hilliard, but without Hilliard having a program. And Hilliard is a large suburb of Columbus, and
Yes.
it's where we are. And so we thought when we launch, we need to make sure we do a really good job. And so we searched far and wide. I don't know if we could say it, but we searched and said we need a great director. And through a variety of circumstances that I want you to share, you came to us, and you are overqualified because
I
you
don't
were
know
not.
about that, but
Tell me if this is right. You were the director or director of elementary education.
Yep, curriculum instruction for Hilliard City Schools,
For-
and I also had the privilege of serving as one of the principals at Hilliard Davidson as well, and I taught at Alton Darby for a period of time.
Okay, so you were a
Yeah.
principal you were a teacher, principal,
Yeah.
coordinator, director of curriculum, and then went and you were a superintendent of not Hilliard, but a
Right,
a school in Central Ohio-ish.
Yes.
Very qualified.
Uh-huh.
And when you were done with that, you said, let's jump in. So tell me a little bit of your LifeWise story, how you got connected.
Yeah, it's a great story. I've been in education for 38 years and was contemplating retirement for a variety of reasons. One, age and eligibility, and then grandchildren. So that piece, I have grandchildren in Maryland, so wanted to be able to see them. And then my parents, I'm an only child, and my parents were aging and having health issues, and so I was trying to really contemplate all of that. And truly, I remember where I was sitting in church. I remember this worship song that was playing, and I just felt God speak to me. It's time for you to use whatever gifts I've bestowed upon you to directly serve the church. And I was like, oh, okay. So I really thought I was going to be doing something there, and still in prayer, because anybody who knows me knows I'm like really thinking, was that really God?
Sure.
Yeah. And so anyway, my daughter-in-law, who lives in Hilliard, reached out and said, hey, have you seen about LifeWise? And they're looking for a program director. You ought to look into that. I'm like, all right. And I really didn't know much about LifeWise.
Didn't know anything about it because you were in Elgin. Is that right?
I live in Elgin, but I was superintendent at Pleasant Local Schools,
yeah.
which is a neighboring district. And
we weren't there.
we weren't
LifeWise
there
wasn't
yet.
there.
No, but
well, I
we
guess
are
this
now.
is early.
Yes, and we
Oh,
are now
we
at
are?
Elgin, and
Sweet.
we are getting ready to launch in River Valley, which is in Marion
Okay.
County as well. So,
Great.
and so, but our school had a release time religious instruction program for a period of time that
okay.
was not through LifeWise. It was a local church
Yeah.
who came in and did it. Kids loved it. So anyway, I began looking into LifeWise because I'm like, I really don't know much about it. If my daughter-in-law says this is good, I'm going to listen to her, have great respect for her. And I wanted to know the quality of the program
Yeah.
if I was going to do something like that. And the more that I looked out and found, the more I just fell in love with what I saw. And I had the opportunity to go to some programs and be a visitor and watch it and see how students responded to it. And get really emotional
Hmm.
because those last years of school, kids are struggling.
Hmm.
Mental health is tough for kids right now,
Yeah.
and suicide rates are high. And we teach a lot about hope and wanting to give kids hope. And what you see in this program is an opportunity for that. And I think that's where my life as a school person, as a superintendent, and this fit well because that's who I was as a teacher and
Yeah.
and as an administrator. And as a superintendent, you know, we work with our school boards and with our administrators and our teachers that we want to create quality student experiences for kids that resonate beyond academics. Obviously, that's our main focus,
Sure.
but you're not successful if you don't have these relationships and you don't have a strong fortitude of who you are and what's important to you and have that hope. And what I saw was just that. And so it makes sense to me that we would continue to promote this release time religious instruction because students who are of faith or who are looking for that, they need that. And it's like that midweek checkup that they have the opportunity to come. And we consistently hear our students say that. They'll say, this is the best part of my week. And that's not a criticism to a school or to anything else that they're a
Sure.
part of. It's just, it's different. They feel a difference. I had a volunteer that we just onboarded and brought in. And like me, but in a totally different way. He was looking for where am I giving now that I'm done working?
Sure.
And he said, I felt it right away. We normally interview our volunteers now that we're in session, like at the end of a program, they'll come. I'll say, we're done at 2:00. You can
Okay.
come at that time. And the volunteer came and we were still in what we call corporate prayer. So our volunteers, we had cleaned up and we were standing around in corporate prayer. And, we had him come in and when him and I sat down, he said, I feel like the support, I feel the family, I feel the love, I feel God.
Yeah.
And this is something I want to be a part of. And those are things that kids feel, and
Right.
we want them to have that. So if they can leave and say, I'm ready for my day, this is a place where I can talk and be vulnerable and share feelings and I'm supported and I can go back and I can be stronger as a result of that. We want that. As a superintendent, I want that for kids.
What is it about LifeWise, and it wouldn't have to be LifeWise, but the fact that
Sure.
it's a spiritual,
Mhm.
Bible-based Christian program, what is it? Why is that uniquely able to offer that to students that you couldn't replicate in the school? Like, why is that so critical?
That's a great question. There's a lot of factors. You could talk for a long time on that, but if you're talking about just for kids, it gets right to their heart.
Hmm.
It's your spiritual journey of who you are and what your faith is grounded in, and it provides you that hope that a program that we teach in school
Yeah.
and they're needed.
Sure.
I am not saying that it's not, and I'm not, but for students who are wrestling with that, it it helps, it grounds you, it reminds you of there's a bigger force or someone who loves you
Hmm.
no matter what. I mean, you have grace, you have love, God is there for you. And students feel that and they know that and they're reminded of it, and you can turn to the Bible and you can see where that happens. Um, that's one of the remarkable things. I don't know if I've answered exactly what you were asking, but in LifeWise, you have that front row seat to God's movement and to the
Yeah.
miracles of God. And so when kids come in, I think they're seeing that too. because your volunteers are experiencing it. We're all on a journey. None
Right.
of us none of us have arrived. I think that's the thing that sometimes kids think is that, well, if I'm believing God and if I'm a Christian, I'm a person, I have to be perfect.
Hmm.
Well, no, you don't. You're loved no matter what. I always say that, being a Christian doesn't make me perfect. It allows me to have a relationship with someone who is.
Right. Right.
And I think our students like that feeling to know that I don't have to be perfect. I can be who I am. I can be who I am in this moment, and that I'm loved and respected as a part of that. And I'm going to continue to grow. And I have God to lean into who's there for me every step of the way.
Well, it's exciting to have that opportunity, and it's
It is
exciting. It's
exciting.
exciting for me to see someone like yourself with the experience you've had in
Oh,
the school
thank you.
system, and there are, in fact, many others, um, educators,
Oh, hmm
current and former, that are just so enthusiastic
right.
about this. In fact, one of our best coaches, a guy named Ron Teacher,
hmm
who I'm sure you've
Okay.
met, he was an elementary school principal for
hmm
decades,
hmm
and tells his story often and says, as great as these programs are, and I guess he managed, I think, a program for like was it ESC
Oh,
or
right. Yes.
for like a
An
whole,
educational
yeah.
service center. Yes.
And he was
Yes.
like, he just felt like we're not getting to the root. We're
Right.
not getting
Right.
deep
Deep
where the
enough.
real issue
Yes.
is.
Yes. Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
so tell me then, we just talked about the root. Tell me about some of the fruit. Tell me about some of the impact
Mm,
that you've seen. I know you have one story in particular with a
yeah.
girl, but just tell me a little bit about what you're seeing the Lord do.
So many. And before I go into that, I just want to say that these God winks are for everybody. They're
Mm.
not. They're for the adults
Yeah.
as well as the students. And I know we focus on the students, but sometimes when you walk into being a volunteer, you don't realize how you're going to be influenced and touched and stretched and grown as well, which is pretty
Oh,
wonderful.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
So yes, uh, we consistently hear from our students, I bet weekly, like this is the best part
Mm.
of our week. We love it here. And I've started asking our teachers and volunteers to say, ask them why.
Sure.
Because I'm really curious, because we certainly want to make sure we're continuing to replicate, what
Right.
that why is. And their why is what I just shared a little bit ago on all of that. But we have a young lady, a really cool story. And I just spoke with her parents this year. She's in her second year, and they said, "We're so glad you see that because we still see that she's, some things at home." And we were
Right.
laughing, like,
Right.
"Well, that's kind of being a parent," but she was hearing people say, well, I'm a Christian and I know that because I carry God in my heart. And she was asking our teacher, how do I know that? And he was like, oh, we don't, as you know, we don't do altar calls and we turn people to the church and to
Right.
parents for those things. But she was asking, what's evidence? What is it
Right.
in
Yeah.
your
Sure.
life? And he said, so I hope I did this right. When we were talking about it, and he said, I told her, he said, lots of times he said, because your behavior changes or things that you used to do when you do it, you feel differently about
Yeah. You're
it.
changed.
Right. And she immediately started crying. And she said, oh my goodness, I do have Jesus in my heart. She said, because I used to tease my siblings and I would laugh. And she said, now when I tease them, she said, I get really upset and lots of times I cry.
Mm.
And she said, so I think I do have Jesus in my heart. And the next week she came back and she's like, okay. She said, I can I get this Bible? Can I take this Bible home? Because my mom said she's going to take me to get me a Bible and I want to get this one.
Wow.
And we're like, well, you could have this one. And she's like, no, I want mine. And,
Wow.
she wanted that opportunity to go by her Bible. And so then the following week, she brings her Bible back, and she's so excited that she has this Bible. And you just watch her when she walks in, she's bouncing, her steps are big, and she's excited. And you just see like she's walking with the Holy Spirit, and such a change. And her parents have shared that, sometimes like recess is hard for her. She struggles with getting along with like girl drama, which
Sure.
is hard. And they said, so we are so thankful for LifeWise because it gives her a day where she comes and has an opportunity to kind of rest from that.
Yeah.
And they weren't saying that she's not at fault or the school's at fault, that it was bad. They were just saying this is a great welcome for her, and it helps her get through. And that's kind of what I was talking about as superintendents. We want to create opportunities like that where every
Right.
student finds their niche and where they can grow as a person and feel grounded and feel like they belong and they're safe. And LifeWise is a place for that for many students.
Yeah, it really is. And yeah, because back to what we said about the roots, like when you are able, when a child finds genuine meaning and genuine
Mm-hmm.
purpose that transcends
Mm-hmm.
all of those other details of life, just the foundation that
Right.
gives
Yes.
and the steadiness that gives. You're not tossed to and fro
Right.
by the winds of what might happen on the playground or
Right.
at home or
Right.
whatever it is, because you have that rock in your life. And the fact that we get to present that to kids during school hours,
It's the best thing ever.
it's pretty cool.
It is
It's pretty
very
cool.
cool.
Well,
Very
thank
cool.
you for everything you're
Thank
doing.
you.
Excited
Thank you
about
for all
what's.
you do.
Oh, well, I get the front row seat of what the Lord's doing. Um, Excited about what's happening in Hilliard, and
Yes.
grateful for everyone who's been with us for these Vision Casts. Hope you enjoyed this finale for the season, this extended Vision Cast. Grateful for the LifeWise universe. God bless.